Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing was created for Cocoa Vanilla Studio and was again inspired by this month's beautiful mood board, which is called Bells and Baubles, and you can see it there, which was designed by Tara McLean. Now, from the mood board there, I was really inspired by the little images of the little Christmas trees there, and also the stars that are in the center image there. So I decided to document the story of the star going on our Christmas tree last year. So this was Christmas 2020. And I'm documenting a couple of photos of one of my sons because it was his turn to put the star on the Christmas tree. And the reason we take these photos is, you will actually see it in my journaling later on, but the reason we take these photos every year is because it avoids the fight from my children over who gets to put the star on the Christmas tree. So each year we just take a photo of whoever did it, and then we know whose turn it is next year, basically. So for this layout, I was actually working with the new Joyful collection, which is the beautiful Christmas collection released by Cocoa Vanilla Studio this year. It features not just the traditional Christmas colours of green and red, but it's got some beautiful mint and some pink, and yeah, it's really, really lovely. So I was creating a mixed media layout for this one because you do know that I love to get my hands dirty. So I'm actually working with a Distress Oxide there, and the colour I was working with was Rustic Wilderness, which is a beautiful green. You can see that I swiped my Distress Oxide on my messy mat there, and then I just mixed it with some water to make a water wash for the background. Now you'll see the difference in the colour because I actually go and add some splatters over the top of the water wash that I've put on the background there, and you'll actually see the difference in the tones when you add a lot of water to this colour as compared to adding just a tiny bit of water. So you can see that it gives you that beautiful deeper green when you only add a little bit of water, and you can see that lighter green colour that I've washed over the background with. Now, when I did that, I used my favourite paintbrush, which is a number 4, which is 2 inches wide. I love how much coverage these brushes give, and I love the fact that, you know, you can often see brush strokes in them. I like using them with not only a water-based paint like this, but I also like to use them with acrylic paints as well. So I had my cardstock cut down to measure 11 by 11 inches because it was my plan to mount the cardstock on a sheet of patterned paper to give me a beautiful patterned paper border. So you can see that paper that I've chosen there is that darker green colour, and it's just got that sweet little leafy print on it. I thought this would complement the green mixed media work that I was doing on the background really beautifully. And you can see that, as usual, I have cut the guts out of that paper because I can't stand the thought of wasting any paper. So I will keep that piece of paper, which actually has a star print on the back of it, to use for another purpose. So I dried off that water wash that I had on the background there. I actually had to go and hit it with a heat gun because I was too impatient just to let it sit and dry naturally. Then I'm going in with some stamping. Now the stamp that I'm using there is a rubber stamp from Viva Las Vegas Stamps, and it's a really cool sort of doodled star. And you can see that I use those stamps unmounted. Now certainly you can mount these rubber stamps if you choose to. I prefer to use them unmounted because it gives me the ability just to bend those stamps and just to sort of stamp like a partial image if I wanted to, and it's just a lot easier for you to manipulate them around the page if you are doing them with mixed media. Now you can see that when I've actually stamped the stamp on the page there, that I haven't got a really crisp, clean, perfect image. Now I could have gotten a crisp, clean, perfect image if I had have added, you know, just a little towel or a tea towel or something underneath it just to absorb some of that shock when you stamp. But I was not looking for clean, neat or perfect with this layout. I sort of wanted a bit of a messy background, so that's why I did it like that. Now you can see that I stamped that star 3 times there because if you know anything about me, you know I like to work with the rule of 3s. So that's why I had structured it like that. And I just checked where my photos were going to sit with regard to those stars, and just to make sure that you could still see plenty of the image poking out from underneath. Now, I was working here with some Vicky Bouton Gold Glaze. Now, usually I use my Heidi Swap Colour Shine to add gold splatters to my page, but I find that when the Heidi Swap Colour Shine dries on the page, if you leave it to dry on its own, or you want really sort of big, bold gold splatters with it, it does tend to remain a little bit tacky. So I thought I would actually, given that I already had this product in my stash because it's beautiful and it's a beautiful gold, I thought I might water it down and test it out and just see how this worked for splatters compared to what I usually do. And I have to say that this gets a big tick from me. It didn't dry with the tackiness that I find that the Colour Shine often has. I did find that with some of those larger splatters there, the fact that it is a glaze and it does have a bit more body to it, that they had a bit of dimension, they had a little bit of texture to them, and they sort of sat up off the page, and I think that is something that I will actually do again. I might try it with some bigger splatters. I mean, I've certainly used the gold glaze through a stencil, and I've used it with a brush and things like that, but I didn't think to sort of water it down and just use it for splattering. But yeah, I'm really glad that I did. So big tick if you're looking for something else to create gold splatters on your page. I highly recommend the Vicky Bouton Gold Glaze. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. So going back to my page, once I had the mixed media down, now that was pretty much all I was doing on that mixed media background. So it was fairly simple. It was a water wash. It was some splatters with the Distress Oxide, some stamping, and then some splatters using that gold glaze. I started working with the paper component of my page. Now, I was particularly drawn to working with the colours that were present in my photos. Now, they were obviously predominantly the green and the gold were right at that front of in the foreground of my photos there from the Christmas tree. And then there was some, largely neutral tones going on in the background. Obviously, my hubby had a white t-shirt on there, but I really wanted to work with that sort of that gold colour and the green and draw those colours in. So I had that little Merry and Bright print that you can see there on that sort of craft mustard sort of coloured paper there. That's from the A5 paper stack. And then I was adding a couple of horizontal strips of paper over the top of that. I've got that sort of lighter green that's got the star print on it. And then I've got that little strip, which actually came from the 12 by 12 cut apart sheet. And it's just got those little Christmas trees printed on it. Now, there's 2 reasons that I chose to use that little strip with the Christmas trees. One, obviously, because I was creating a layout about the day our tree got put up and our tradition of putting up the tree. But the other reason is because I actually did create a pocket page for this page as a complementary page to this one. And I did use the patterned paper with the little Christmas trees printed all over it. So it just helps sort of tie those 2 pages together. And as I mentioned in my previous video, when I had also created a complementary pocket page, I will share that with you guys next week in the Cocoa Vanilla Studio community Facebook group. So, I digress. Again, my apologies. Back to what I'm doing here. I actually already had the Joyful die cut ephemera pack open on my desk. I still had some of it sitting in that packet or in the bowl on my desk. And I was just sort of hunting through, looking for a few pieces that might work with the colour scheme that I was going with here. What else? Oh, failed to mention, bad me. In that stack that you can see that I have layered in underneath those photos, I added a small white paper doily. And I have also added some frayed gauze for texture. If you are wondering where you can get gauze, you can get it from a pharmacy. I actually think I got this pack online from a pharmaceutical supplies place. If you're not able to get gauze, just use some sort of really loose weave fabric like muslin or something like that. Or just get a roll of cotton and just, create some messy cotton thread. It just gives it that extra bit of something with the texture there as well. Okay, so now I'm playing around with all of those bits of ephemera that I had pulled out of the pack that worked with my colour scheme and thought that I may be able to use on the page. When I pull them out like this, I have no plans to use all of them. I just like to make it easier for myself rather than having to flick through the entire contents of the pack while I'm working. I couldn't resist using that sweet little deer there. It's so cute. And it matched beautifully with that background paper that I had used and the tones in the photo, and it just tucked in perfectly under the corner of my photo there. I've used that little joyful flag to the right of my photos, and the reason I chose to place that there was simply because I wanted to continue that sort of horizontal line. Now, you'll note that those horizontal lines of paper that I have put in behind my photos, if you have a look at where they're sitting, they're actually sitting in behind the eye line of my son in the photos, because that tends to be your point of interest on your page. And I just like the way that using a horizontal piece behind that, particularly when I'm using two landscape photos like that, it just helps to anchor the photos down onto the page. So I had picked through that die cut ephemera. As I said, I'd pulled out a few little stars and things that I'm just sticking on here. I also pulled out the chipboard pack, and you can see those gold stars that I have added to the page. They came from the chipboard sticker sheet. So there are some beautiful gold foiled pieces in that chipboard sticker pack. I've also added that little banner piece along the bottom of the photo that says Jingle All the Way. I love the gold foiling in this. Now, what am I fiddling with now? Okay, so now I've got out the gold puffy title stickers. And I'm going to add the words magical moments along the bottom there. To be honest, I hadn't really thought it through where I was going to stick my title on this page. And once I had everything else down on the page, that just seemed as good a place as any. So I do love the real sort of festive, Christmassy feel that using gold on a page can give. And from those same sheets, you can see I'm also sticking on some of the little puffy gold stars. I just sort of ran those in a diagonal line from sort of top right to bottom left just to help, again, draw the eye through the photo. I'm adding a stamp on there with the date for posterity so we can remember exactly when that Christmas tree went up. And for my journaling, I'm actually going to go and do it off camera. But I just used my typewriter and typed it onto some white cardstock, cut it into strips, and then had to find a place to put it on the page. Now, it had been my intention to sort of put it down in that near that bottom left corner, but unfortunately, I obviously said too much in my journaling and it didn't quite fit. So it went up in the top left. And that was about it. That was my page. Oh, you can see this one cute little wood button on there as well. That's all for now. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.